Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. We are continuing on our route of DSM-5 disorders, and this morning we are going to do elimination disorders. Now, this video is going to be very short and sweet because there's only two, and it's not typically a lot of information to describe these two disorders. Quite simple and easy once you take a quick dive in. So I know that when it came to enuresis, people always associated this diagnosis with like bedwetting, where it's like a kid is just peeing in the bed. But that's not actually true because it can happen in their while they're asleep at night, even when they're like awake with their clothes on, whether if it's going to be involuntary or if it's going to be intentional. I have worked with a kid that would say, like standing in a classroom and just would say like, hey, I need to use the bathroom. And then they would just void the pee right there in the classroom. So it's not always about the kid is peeing in the bed, okay? At least twice a week for 3 consecutive months. Or this behavior is causing like significant distress for social, academic, or other areas of importance, which is going to be a kid at school, right? Because they can't hold it, they can't help themselves, where they're just like voiding the urine while they're at school. I have seen it happen, and when it happens, typically the kid usually they want to go home, right? There is other studies about enuresis. So some of it also, there's a line of sexual trauma as well, but we're not going to go into that. I can also do a video on that. I wanted to do a video on that because sometimes enuresis and encopresis goes a lot deeper than just, hey, I can't make it to the bathroom in enough time, or, it's the involuntary void of the urine. Sometimes it goes a little bit more deeper than that, and I wanted to take a dive into that too. But again, this is enuresis, twice a week, 3 consecutive months. It's not always about if the kid is asleep and they couldn't wake up in enough time to use the bathroom. It can be involuntary, or it can also be intentional. Stay on the lookout for a video regarding enuresis and encopresis, as well as the tie into trauma, okay? So there's also specifiers for enuresis. There's nocturnal, where it occurs during sleep time, which is the most common one, which is why everybody always says it's like, oh, it's just bedwetting. Well, it's not just bedwetting. And then you have the urinal only, where this is like you're at school, you're out in the public somewhere. It's happening during the day where this is occurring. And then you have them both together, where it's going to be nighttime, it's going to be daytime, and it's both together, whether they're asleep or if they're awake, enuresis occurs, okay? Now, for this next one, encopresis, I also worked with a kid who also had encopresis. And the thing about encopresis is the kid that I worked with would like constantly say like they don't feel when they have to use the bathroom. They don't know that it's coming sometimes, or they're like really, really, really like backed up or whatever, and they can't use the bathroom. So I don't really think there's like this one fix all for encopresis, right? But according to the DSM-5, it's just the repeated passage of feces into inappropriate places, such as clothing or onto the floor. But I think it goes a little bit deeper than that, because each kid's case of encopresis is kind of different. It's kind of different because the kid that I worked with, I know they said it occurs at least once a month for at least 3 months. It was constant, so you kind of like knew, and then it would like the odor of it, the smell of it is it's really bad. The individual is at least 4 years old or has reached an equivalent of developmental level. So like I said, like I feel like encopresis is different depending on that kid, because I've worked with quite a few of them that has struggled with that, and each case was like differently. And then there's the constipation, or you have the overflow. One of the kids that I worked with had it was a constipation, and then it would start to leak out on its own, and that's when you knew that, hey, he was actually using the bathroom, even if he was just sitting there, didn't realize it or whatever. So like I said, I think it's specific to each kid. And then there's without the constipation. It's just The overflow of the incontinence is just, it just comes out and it's just going to be intentional. It's purposely done. That I have never worked with a kid like that. But the involuntary one, yes, I have. A kid that sits there and just say like, hey, I'm about to, use it on myself. I haven't witnessed that. I haven't seen that yet. But hey, this is a great topic to talk about early in the morning anyways. But alrighty, of course, a chart, because Carrie loves charts. They chart to make me feel safe. This is your chart that is going to help you understand the difference between enuresis and encopresis. Now, the sum of it for enuresis is urine, encopresis is feces. Boom. That's like your biggest difference between the two. For the voluntary and involuntary, it can be either. Both of them come with whether if it's going to be involuntary or whether if it's going to be voluntary, whether it's going to be intentionally being done, right? So you know that the difference between enuresis, repeated urination, encopresis is the repeated passage of feces. That's your biggest difference, okay? Age of onset for enuresis, 5 years old, and encopresis is 4 years old, right? Frequency for enuresis is twice a week for 3 months. Encopresis is once a week for 3 months. Like I said, the specifiers, you will know the difference. Enuresis nocturnal, diurnal, okay? Morning or night, or both. Encopresis is going to be with constipation or overflow or without it, and it's being intentionally done, okay? Those are your huge differences between enuresis and encopresis. If you still do not understand the difference between the two or have a good understanding of some of the specifiers or the symptoms that occur between enuresis and encopresis, please feel free to leave me a message, comment, or concern. But I seem to think that these are two of the simplest diagnoses in easier terms for you to understand. I will be honest with you and tell you, there is no way that you can mix up enuresis and encopresis if you were to have this question on the exam. One is urine, the other one is feces. That is it. That is all. Alrighty, so thank you all for rocking with me this morning on this kind of, uncomfortable topic early in the morning. But again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. I will respond to you. I hope to talk to you all soon.